What does physical database design mean? Well, the way I really think about it is that there's two aspects to the design of a database. There's the logical modeling side and the physical implementation side. Now, logical modeling is incredibly important. It's where you're doing your business requirements gathering, you're understanding what it is that you're storing, how you're going to be using that data. And a lot of people think that that is the most critical part. And there's definitely a lot of work, and it is a very core critical part. But what's interesting to me is even as much as people put into their logical model, they don't really think that there's anything that they have to do in terms of their physical model. They really think that the physical implementation is just a matter of knowing the syntax of that particular relational database management system. They think, well, okay, I'm working with Oracle, I need to know PL SQL. I'm working with Microsoft SQL Server, so I need to know Transact SQL. They think, okay, I'm working with DB2, I need to know SQL PL. So they think I need to know the syntax for that particular RDBMS. They don't really think, what's different in PL SQL versus T SQL versus SQL PL? And it's really interesting to me that sometimes people won't even go beyond knowing the ANSI ISO standards for SQL. They think that they can do everything within the standards. And again, if you really need to port your application across environments, if you need that to run on all sorts of different platforms, then sticking with and understanding and only use ANSI standard syntax is important. But what you will find, what this course will actually prove, is that understanding that actual platform and knowing when to do certain things in Microsoft SQL Server, what you're going to get is a much more scalable, available, and reliable design. You're going to be able to take advantage of things early on in your design that will really give you a much longer application life. You're going to really be able to improve performance, reliability, and availability. This is what I want to prove to you. And I know some of you might actually think, I just don't need to know that. But by the end of this course, I promise I'm going to show you a variety of cases where sometimes incredibly minor changes have a major impact on that database. For me, what I've always said to people, if they're going to work with SQL Server, there's really three things that it takes to do a good job. You have to know your data. There's absolutely no way to design a SQL Server environment without understanding the data, understanding the attributes, getting a fair sense of what the business requirements are. Sure, I absolutely agree with that. I think one of the next most important pieces that, again, a lot of people miss is knowing their workload. One of my favorite stories to tell, somebody came up to me at a conference years ago and they said, "Hey, Kim, do you mind if I ask you a question?" I'm sure, no problem. They said, "Well, do you mind if we go over here?" And we ended up sitting down at this little table, and there was a sofa and a table in front of us. And they ended up pulling out what looked like a stack of papers, but they ended up unraveling it and kind of unfolding it, spreading it out on this table. And I kid you not, it was their entire entity relationship diagram. It was their entire logical model essentially sitting right there. And they looked at me straight faced. I'll never forget this. They said, "How would you index this?" And I remember thinking, well, okay, if I look at this particular table here, if I look at this table called customer, and I see that there's a customer name, I would end up recommending very likely that if you put an index on customer name, that will help you find customers by name more quickly. But if they turn around and say to me, "Well, no, this is our demographics analysis database. We do everything by city, state, zip." Well, then my index on name is actually useless. So knowing what the actual workload is for that particular database is critical. If I put that index on company name, it's overhead. It's useless in an environment where all analysis is done on things like city state zip or now spatial quadrants. My point is you have to know your workload, and how you tune in an OLTP environment is often different than how you tune in a decision support environment. So this is incredibly important, but notice I said three things. So what is that third? That third is to understand the platform. If you have a better understanding of the physical environment that you're working in, I promise you'll be able to do things more quickly, more effectively, and that database will be more scalable. And that's really what I think I'm going to show you in this course. Things that you just had no idea had so much of an impact on your overall design and performance.